Mackenzie.
Lemar.
Little accent there for Brad Pitt's Mickey in Snatch, which is one of my birthday month choices. And thank you for allowing me to pick the films this month and stuff that we haven't done before. I'm curious if we were to run this back for your birthday month and you got to select. We don't even know. I haven't even told you what other films we're going to do for August.
I don't know what we're doing.
I
feel like he's going to bait and switch me, you guys. It's going to I think his birthday gift to himself is going to be pick shit that he knows I don't want to watch.
Yeah, we're going to do The Room, and we're just going to do really bad movies because I know that you're not a fan of just horrible films that are fun because they're so bad. But if we were to run this back for your birthday month, what would be number one at the top of your list? Something we haven't covered so far, and maybe something that you don't think is going to slot into a future month? Because I sent you a couple of those where I'm like, I think, we're eventually going to do these, so I don't feel the need to force them in here. But what's one that you think we would do in your birthday month?
Okay, so the first thing that popped into my head when you said that, and this is going to show my own ignorance at our catalog, I don't think we've done The Princess Bride. Have we done The Princess Bride?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think so. I'm going to laugh if somebody comments on this and is like, actually, you fucking idiots.
I feel like we mentioned it in passing.
Yeah, I think I've talked about it, but I don't. That is one that, I don't know. It's kind of a sleeper hit for me, but it's one that I'm obsessed with that I just sort of forget. Like when people ask my favorite movies and I kind of forget about it almost, but it is absolutely up there. I know every single line to that movie and then some. So, and we haven't talked, theoretically, we haven't talked about it. And I think that's kind of insane. So I think for sure The Princess Bride. Yeah.
Okay. That's a solid choice. That's not on my list. We're not doing it in August. No spoilers, but yeah, unfortunately did not make the cut. Okay. So,
I mean, don't get me wrong. There are probably so many more. I feel like we uncover ones all the time when we're talking about another actor and a thing comes up and we're like, how have we not talked about this yet? Right. So I feel like there's lots of those that I'm not thinking of. But yeah, I think that's the one, like, birthday gift to me. I would just talk about one of the best movies ever.
Yeah, that was one of the ones I sent you. I sent you a couple horror recommendations, and I was like, well, we'll probably do these in October. Like Scream 4 is probably my favorite Scream outside of the original, which we've already covered. So I would love to do Scream 4 in October when we get there. And there was another one where I went, oh, we'll probably end up doing a month by this director. So or The Departed. I was like, The Departed is one of my favorite movies, but I assume we'll do a Scorsese month at some point. So we probably won't do that in August. But yeah, I'll keep the rest of mine secret for now. Maybe at the end of the episode we have to announce next week. So maybe
I was going to say you got to tell me what you have to. So you during this conversation you're going to have to pick one. You have to pick one more because I gotta. Not only do I have to introduce it, I have to go fucking watch it. So I need the time.
I'm just going to spend this episode thinking about that for 60 minutes and contributing nothing of value to the conversation.
Make me carry this whole fucking day to day. Okay, got it. All right, well, let's roll. Welcome back to We Drink and We Watch Things. I'm Mackenzie.
I'm Lemar.
And this month, if you missed the opener, is Lamar's birthday month. And because I'm nice, I gave him the gift of picking 4 movies for us the whole month. And I'm scared, but the first one I'm excited about, which is Snatch.
I'm wearing my pork pie hat. It just felt very fitting. I haven't worn this since we covered Sinners because it also fit for that movie too. But yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better 27th birthday gift than doing 4 of my favorite films. So
yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I'm also terrified. I'm not kidding when I say that, but I am excited a little bit to see what happens because I don't know them yet. But I, as we've established, am not currently drinking at the moment. But you did design a cocktail for the episode. So what are you drinking?
So I am drinking what I am calling Mickey's Right Cross, which is a hell of a right hand in this film multiple times. But originally I had said 2 ounces of Irish whiskey. I almost feel like it's better for the sake of, his accent to mix it up. Do like an ounce of Irish whiskey, do an ounce of scotch, do whatever the fuck you want. Like make it random. 2 ounces of whiskey / bourbon / scotch, whatever you want to throw in there, because you can't really identify that accent. And then 2 dashes each of Angostura bitters and black walnut bitters, a 1/4 ounce of maple syrup. You're going to stir that up, and also toss in a pinch of salt. So I feel like Mickey, when he's got to recover from that wake and go fight, you need some electrolytes, right? So like, I feel like the sodium is probably good for you. So a little dash of salt in there will do you. And yeah,
covering, really.
Right.
Yeah, I like it. All right. Well, cheers. Let me know how it is. Let me sip it on my coffee.
It's good. The salt, like I don't typically put salt or saline in my drinks, but the salt adds a little something there on the back end. Yeah.
And you can do the little droppers of salt, saline.
Yeah, I need to buy saline solution instead of just eyeballing the salt that I put in my drink. But
or just go nuts. What is it? What's the guy's name? The little salt guy, Salt Bay. Isn't that his name? You could just have a Salt Bay.
Oh yeah, the chef guy. Yeah,
Salt Bay. Oh, I love it. Okay, so we're gonna do some basics. We're gonna talk this crazy cast that's really big. We're gonna try and do that kind of quickly, and then we'll get into some fun stuff, some spoiler territory, all that jazz. So this is Snatch. This came out in 2000, which really comes through for me. I don't know about you on rewatch. I was like, yep. This feels
for me
like
where the actors are at this point is right. Very like it's Jason Statham before he's shirtless and jumping through explosions. Like it's
I just went back to a moment in time. I felt like I was like, this is from this era. Yeah. We have an 8.2 out of 10 on IMDb and 74% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes and 93% from audiences. So
I'm surprised it's so low for critics. I think this is a great film. Maybe they think it's derivative because it is, heavily Tarantino influenced, but I think it's great. So
yeah, I think it also is a product of like when it came out, because I actually kind of agree. Like I would say I am a Guy Ritchie fan. Like I love his stuff. I generally speaking, I enjoy all of his films, even if they're not incredibly made. I always have a good time. This was one that I think wasn't a first watch fandom for me. Like I didn't love it immediately. I think it is one, I didn't hate it, but I didn't like love it. It just didn't grab me the same way. I do think this is a second watch to like really enjoy it.
I loved it the first time I saw it, but I didn't wrap my head around all the interwoven stories, which we'll talk about when we get into spoiler territory. But on rewatches, you pick up on how all these things are connecting. And there was an era, I think basically the 2000s, where everyone was trying to do Tarantino. And they were like, let's do Pulp Fiction, where there's all these things and you don't know when it's happening. Even when you look at fucking like Oscar winner Crash, right? That was this, like, they're like, let's take all these different stories about how everyone's racist and we're going to win an Oscar because of it. Like, so I feel like this was an era, and maybe this feels like just lumped in with that, but I do think it was ahead of the game in much regard. I mean, this was 2000, so.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I mean by moment in time. Like the way that this story is being told is indicative of when it was made, for sure, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of, like we said, the director is Guy Ritchie. Also, the writer is Guy Ritchie. I love going back to this, one of his earlier films like this, because I do still feel like you, in retrospect, see the progression of him as a filmmaker. This is very much some of his earlier work. It's a little bit grittier. It's a little bit less stylized, but I think his energy and vibes that he brings to his productions is absolutely the same. It's still there. He's just polished it, I would say, more over the years. So that was kind of like a fun throwback.
I would say I don't think you have Guy Ritchie without Quentin Tarantino. I don't think you have Edgar Wright without Guy Ritchie. I know that Edgar Wright was only a few years after this, was when Shaun of the Dead really hit big. But I think if you watch some of the sequences and the cuts in this British style of humor plus action, I'm pretty sure, I don't have a quote here, but I think if you asked Edgar Wright, I think he'd be very heavily influenced by Guy Ritchie. So,
yeah, I could see that. I mean, there's definitely some of the, like you said, the way that's shot, some of the tonality is similar. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so cast is like pretty big. And honestly, I was telling Lemar before we started, I was like, I literally have their pictures up because I need a refresher. There's so many. Also, they look different now than then. So like,
I was going to suggest, how do you feel about doing like a snake draft, almost like a Lushmore type thing, to talk through the cast here? Because there are a lot of them. And I think the highest flattery I can give this film, and the reason I love it so much, is all of the characters are these zany, just wacky, unique people, but it all works. I think there are a lot of movies in the 2000s that tried to do this and didn't necessarily succeed. I feel like Smokin' Aces is a really good example of that. Well, I know
Oh
people that love
yeah.
Smokin' Aces, but I just feel like
I
that's where it's
want
like
to like it, but I think it missed the mark. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a little, the characters can go so far that they become caricatures, and I think that's what
Right.
happens in films like that.
Yeah.
This, I think, I believe it. I know it's a wacky world, but I'm
But they're
bought
still
into every
characters.
character that
Yeah.
exists here.
I agree. Totally
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, let's snake draft it up. Lead the way, my friend.
Okay.
How
I
do you
will
want to do
say, I'll
this?
caveat with, I think there's some characters in this that make sense as a duo as
Yeah.
opposed to just like a single character. So if you
So
want
you're
to
saying
draft
you
two
can
at a
draft
time,
them together?
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this is a casual Lushmore, but I think we have to
Lamar's
start
the
with
rule
Mickey.
guy. You always have to check. Like these very
Yeah.
intense. Literally, we had a game night last night. The rules are intense. So I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yes, I feel like we have to start with Mickey. I know he's not necessarily the protagonist of this. I would say that's Turkish, but I think this movie does not work without that character and Brad Pitt's portrayal of that character. And I'm sure you saw in your research that Brad Pitt just wanted to work with Guy Ritchie. Basically, this character was written for him, which is so zany to think that there was a draft of this script where Mickey wasn't a part of it because he feels like the backbone. And without him, I don't think this movie is half as successful.
I could see it where I agree though. Yeah, I totally agree. But I could see it where they make that particular fighter or character like more anonymized, just doesn't become as big a role. Like it's there. It's obviously a vehicle for action. But maybe you spend more focus and time on Turkish and Tommy,
Right.
But I agree. I think like he steals the show a little bit in terms of his performance here. But I would just say like speaking of duos, next up, like Turkish and Tommy, you've got Jason Statham and Stephen Graham. And I mean, we all know Jason Statham, Transporter, and all of these other things. But Stephen Graham, I think, is a fun deep cut. And I actually forgot this was him, which sounds silly to say. But I did forget it was him, and he is so different now, and like based especially on what you see him in today, it's such a progression. Like that was a fascinating rewatch to me to see him, and he's done
Of all the
kinds
people
of
in
great
this,
things.
when you look at the various actors and where they were in their careers, Stephen Graham is, it's crazy to think because I remember being very excited for him when he got a role on Boardwalk Empire as Al Capone, and he was so good in that. And then I haven't watched it yet, but he's also in that Adolescence, right? That won like
I was gonna
Emmys
mention he is fucking incredible in that.
Okay.
I have seen that. That is a very eerie show. And not a horror by any means, but it's psychologically fucked up. And so he, like, I haven't seen him perform like that personally. Like I was blown away. So yeah, that like, and I'm comparing that because that's the most recent thing I've seen him in. To this, I was like, whoa,
he's a baby.
What a
he's a baby. Yeah, and he's so likable in this and like adorable and apparently didn't even mean to audition. He went with a friend and was dragged into the room, and then Guy Ritchie was like, oh, are you trying out too? And I guess Stephen Graham is dyslexic and was having trouble with the script and was like, I need some time to think it over. And he said, well, can you improvise? Oh yeah, I'm really great at improv. And he kind of just got the part from that, and I think it strangely works. I love his and Turkish dynamic throughout this, but I will say, when we get to ratings, not to spoil it at the end, but I think the only thing that keeps this from being a 10 out of 10 film is I feel like early Jason Statham, some of his line delivery in the first half hour of this is not great. Like, I understand he's supposed to be like the straight man, but the first couple scenes, I can see why somebody on first watch would be like, oh, this isn't that great. Because honestly, Jason Statham's acting is not superb to start this film.
Let's just qualify. Jason Statham is less an actor and more an action star. Like I think that's the baseline we all have to accept when you watch one of his movies. It does not make it fun to watch his films. He does another Guy Ritchie, Wrath of Man, that I think he does very well. But he's not a great actor. Stephen Graham is a great actor. Yeah. And like, that's what's interesting to me to watch that progression of Jason Statham is Jason Statham. And Stephen Graham has now become all kinds of characters and has become, a really strong actor. It's still so enjoyable.
Though. He's no beekeeper.
He's no beekeeper. But I agree with you. Early half, he's like,
he was also in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels before
Yeah.
this, but he had such a minor role in that
Yeah.
I think it worked because he just had to pretend to be stoned a couple times, and like he didn't
Right.
have a ton to
He
do
doesn't
in
have to
that.
carry anything, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
But in this, and I mean, he's fine, but I do think he really does make the first 15, 20 minutes a little difficult to watch.
Yeah, I think that's hard. That's where people have a hard time engaging a little bit early
Who do you
on in
want to talk
this.
about next?
Okay, I want to jump to Benicio del Toro. We don't get enough of him
Frankie
in this, in my
Four Fingers, yeah.
opinion. Like, I want more Frankie Four Fingers, but the bits that we get are so stylized and hilarious, and like his voice in this, which he always has a very unique vocal delivery in every single one of his films, and I would say they vary, obviously, but he just has a unique style to the way he delivers everything. And I love the cutaways to, like, you know, him gambling. You know, there's that.
Las Vegas.
Yeah, like it's like an insert it here. It almost, it's funny you mentioned Smoking Aces, because that's like, I feel like that's something they were trying to do with Smoking Aces, and it just didn't work. But yeah, I think he's such a fun time in this.
He's
one.
great. He's
and
only with us for the first
more.
like half hour of the movie. Okay, spoiler warning, but like he's only with us for the first like half hour.
But he's referenced multiple times, and that's what makes it funny.
Yeah, he's the impetus for a lot of for honestly the whole movie, like the interwoven storylines. But like this giant diamond is all him, and I love that opening sequence in the credits where it's these guys pretending to be like these synagogue Jewish men with the big beards, and they're having this whole conversation just to sell the authenticity of it because they know they're on security cameras. And I love that. I think Guy
they're
Ritchie
literally talking through like Orthodox tenants in the elevator. Like, it's
and
wild.
You're like, actually, like on multiple watches, I'm like, you know what? They're making some interesting, compelling points of like, oh, it was a mispronunciation.
When you have subtitles on, you're like, wow, this is compelling.
But yeah, Guy Ritchie does some really incredible stuff in here, unique shots, and I love how that story is told as we're going across the security monitors during the opening credits. But yeah, Frankie Four Fingers, great pull there. I will move into Bricktop, played by Alan Ford, who I
was torn between those two, man. Those are the two, up here.
Dude, he is hateable in this, and he also was in Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels as a pretty likable, like, right-hand man of Sting in that movie, like the singer Sting. But in this, you just fucking hate this guy, and I guess originally they were trying to get Sean Connery for this role, but I don't think I wouldn't buy Sean Connery as hateable as much as Alan Ford is in this. I think he's brilliant.
That is fascinating, actually, that I think about that. Like, I think Alan Ford does an incredible job, and yes, very hateable, and I love him in this. I would be so interested, though, to see Sean Connery try to do this kind of villain energy. That would be fascinating to me, actually. But yeah, I agree. I think he just knocks it out of the park. And I love down to the spittle. You know what I mean? In the delivery of how he's talking, like he has this nasty, aggressive physicality to the way that he's talking to everybody, and in these really, gritty environments too. And it all comes together for a real character. Yeah. I think
his facial mannerisms are great. Even like just the way his teeth are. I know they're his real teeth, but it just works in this character of like, this guy does not give a fuck about anything. He's not worried about appearances. He's this not super imposing physical specimen, but you feel terrified of what he's capable of throughout this, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Like there's that undercurrent of violence. That's right there. 100%. Right there.
So I'll jump to Vinny and Saul. I'll pair those two together because I feel like you can't have one without the other. I'll also throw Tyrone in there. That trio is incredibly hilarious throughout this whole thing. But Vinny, played by Robbie G, who I have not seen them, but apparently is in all the Paddington movies, so good for him. He's doing bigger and better things. And then Lenny Jones, who I think most people will recognize as being on The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. I forget what his character's name was, but he was on like the first episode and then made sporadic appearances throughout the whole series, but like 10 years after this came out. So good for him.
I think I've said, but I haven't seen The Walking Dead, so I don't know that reference. But Lenny is in Blade Runner 2049 as well.
Okay.
And then Robbie G is in Underworld, which I can't remember where, but they're all vampired up, so I don't know. But
werewolves, yeah. I feel like I do remember him in that, but I don't remember how big his part was. And then Tyrone. Do you know his name? His real name? It's one word. Like his name is
Aid.
like Aid.
Aid.
Okay, yes.
And but he was in Casino Royale. He's
Which
playing
is
poker at the table.
crazy. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think that Guy Ritchie found him, like cast him in this because I believe he was a bouncer at the time, and he just saw the size of the dude and was like, "Hey, I have this movie. I need like a big dude to play this getaway driver." So shout out to him for going on to be in a fucking Bond movie after just being a bouncer like 4 years prior.
I mean, I can see the bouncer of it all.
Oh, for
Like
sure.
you're not gonna fuck with this guy at all, for sure. Okay, let's see who's next. Dennis Farina plays cousin Avi.
Yeah.
That is another sequence that is so fun too, like a la Benicio's sequence as well. I love the character cutaways, and he is he is every bit this like New York, gangster kind of energy. He's like cursing out his British cousin. I love that he's like the bully of the two, and the way he travels over there, that sequence each time traveling back and forth it's so funny, and he delivers it so perfectly, and he's such a compliment to what's happening in the UK, and such an antithesis of that. It's entertaining.
Yeah, this is Guy Ritchie definitely poking fun at Americans. Like he's the one American character in this, and it is the end, like just exactly like the over the top, loud New Yorker guy who, thinks he deserves everything and talks shit about everyone around him. And I think Dennis Farina just does. I haven't seen a ton of him in film. I feel like he should have been in more because I feel like he's just I know he did a bunch of movies, but I haven't seen them, unfortunately. But I feel like
he does
he would
kind
be
of
a
like
great character actor.
I shouldn't say bit parts, but like kind of character
Character
supporting
actor,
parts.
yeah,
And but he was in Saving Private Ryan. I think people maybe remember him from, but
okay.
but yeah, not a ton that I've seen him in. I think also weirdly I remember him from some TV, and I can't place it. I think he's in a good amount of TV as well, but yeah, he's a good one.
Yeah, he's brilliant. And I think to my point earlier, that cousin Abby sequence that you referenced where like they do the quick cuts of the phone slamming, him getting on the plane, the shot, like those quick sequences, when I say Edgar Wright definitely took a bit from this. If you watch Shaun of the Dead, where he's getting ready and it's like you see the close up of the toothbrush on the teeth, you see the toilet flushing, you see the name, like that is pulled right from this Guy Ritchie movie. So I'll move into, though, Vinnie Jones as Bullet Tooth Tony, who is a real treat. And he's like the opposite of Frankie Four Fingers. We only get Frankie in the first, 30 minutes. We get Bullet Tooth Tony in the last like 30 to 45 minutes. But I love his first appearance of like slamming the guy's head in the door, which is a Lock, Stock reference. And the Madonna of it all. Like he really loves Lucky Star.
Yes.
But I love that character, the attempted murder of him, and he takes like 5 or 6 bullets to the face and survives. Also worth noting that Guy Ritchie was actually married to Madonna for 8 years. They have a kid together, so very fitting that he has one of her songs in here, and Bullet Tooth Tony loves it. So
isn't that wild? It's like that was in her like slightly getting a fake British accent era. Very fascinating. But
it was when she contributed music to the Austin Powers soundtrack. She was Buddhist, but also loved Britain at the time, I guess.
She's had all the eras, you know what I mean? Like she is a pop princess, pop queen rather, in all the ways. She can adapt, to all the things. Except apparently being married to Guy Ritchie. Anyways,
I do like though, like again, not to spoil later in the film, but I like that we're talking about the complexity. I'm putting it in quotations if you're not on video, of these characters. Like they are zany and over the top. But one little thing that I like is Bullet Tooth Tony doesn't want to hurt the dog. And I think that's very cute for like this guy who's willing to slam someone's head in a fucking car door. But he's like, oh, that's a little harsh. I don't want to hurt this little puppy.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. That is in fact in my notes. Of course it is. And I was like, I hate all this dog stuff that they're doing. This is terrible. And then here comes Bullet Tooth Tony. And I was like, fuck yeah. Look at this guy. Love him. And I was also trying to be like, I was trying to remember. I was like, wait, they don't hurt the dog, right? They don't hurt the dog. Like if you had been watching it with me, it was just me sitting here going like, they don't hurt the dog. They don't hurt the dog. Like muttering to myself. Whew, thank goodness. All right. I think I will close my list out with Boris the Blade Urinov.
Why do they call him the Bullet Dodger? Because he dodges bullets, Avi. One of my favorite lines of the film. Like, why did they call him the Bullet Dodger?
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that. That is a good one. I love that you don't really get a lot there, right? Like they're just like, he plays this character in every film that he's in. Like I don't have a problem with it at all, but like he plays this person and I think every film that he's in, and it's always this aura of this type of guy, Wasn't he in
He's like the I feel like him and the guy, I can never remember the actor's name. The guy who played the Russian astronaut in Armageddon. You know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
He's a character actor. He's in so many fucking things, but he always plays sort of a foreign menace in a lot of what he does. And I feel like those two are like different sides of the same coin. You need a Russian guy, it's going to be one of these two. You need a Mexican guy, it's going to be Danny Trejo. But like, you need a Russian, one of these. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely one of these. And I think like I can't remember what it was, but I think he's even like down to like triple X. Do you remember that? With Vin Diesel and like
fun fact, I don't know if my brother still listens to this podcast, so I don't want to shame him, but when my brother was like 13 years old, Triple X was his favorite movie. He thought that was the best piece of fucking cinema he had ever seen. So shame on him for enjoying.
To be fair, I think I have that movie. Like I think I own that movie. But I also like I've told y'all before, I've started collecting movies when I was like 13, so I like bought all kinds of, I have some embarrassing ones on the shelf is what I will say, and that is probably one of them. But I think he's definitely like it's either that or The Saint, which is a very different energy, don't get me wrong, but like in terms of environment it's similar. He just plays his exact character in that, and I actually love it. I think it's perfect for him. So
you gotta know your strengths,
right. But I think those are all the big ones, right? Did we miss any good ones?
I would say those are the big ones. I mean, you could shout out Doug the Head, who has kind of a minor role but important. Yeah. Mike Reedy kind of bookends the film here, but I'm not familiar with a ton of his work, so I can't really go deep on that actor. But
yeah, I think we're good. I think we crushed it. Okay, quick plot summary before we get into official spoiler warnings. I think they've had time to watch it, but just, whatever, to be clear. So, unscrupulous boxing promoters, violent bookmakers, and a Russian gangster, incompetent amateur robbers, and a supposedly Jewish jewelers fight to track down a priceless stolen diamond. Wow. What a summary, because that is a lot of things and people happening at once. And that is accurate.
Yeah, I think, let's throw out, do you want to throw down the spoiler warning real quick?
All right, kids, turn around. Don't drown. It's spoiler time.
For all of the films that attempted to do the Pulp Fiction thing of multiple storylines, and I don't think this does as much of the time mechanics of literally things are happening into, I think there's one scene that does that, but the interwovenness of the stories, where we're watching this one tale of these boxing managers / promoters, and they're trying to get their guy to fight, and then they go into business with this guy, and it turns out he's a dick, and they're indebted to him, and he's tried, you have that going on, then you have the story of the diamond, and I feel like those are the two big things that interweave. But then you also, that brings in Vinny and Saul, and they're robbing Bricktop's bookie. There's a reason why they overlap, and I think it's just very eloquently told of the reason they robbed this bookie and there's no money is because Gorgeous George gets hurt and is not going to fight. So the bets are off. The stories do impact each other throughout, and then they tie together perfectly at the very end.
Yeah. And I think they're doing it at such a pace here that's really fascinating to watch, because everything feels like it's happening very quickly, and it takes you a minute to relate them at all, I would say, not just because there aren't a ton of details about it, but it's because it is, I think, just going so fast. You're moving at this breakneck speed in terms of plot, and you're kind of trying to keep up not only with new characters, but with, the additional stories. And like you said, you have these seemingly very unrelated type of situations. You have a fucking diamond heist basically, and and then these fights, right? And so and then you introduce the Romani people as a whole secondary story to that fight, even though that's its own little world too, right? They're not really involved. They're brought in for this other reason. So it's really interesting to see that all coalesce. And I think that domino effect is funny because it is masterful in the way that it's done, the way you're saying this is done very well, and it comes together in a way that makes sense. It feels like an accident though. You know what I mean? It all feels like it's
like happenstance,
dumb luck and happenstance, and like this is just some domino effects of weird random events, and it's anything but that's the energy that the plot moves with, which makes it, I think, interesting to watch.
Yeah, it's a super tight script, and I think Ritchie tried to run this back multiple times in some of his other films, and for better or worse, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like, I liked The Gentleman, didn't love it. I liked Rock and Rolla, didn't love it.
You didn't love The Gentleman?
Mm-mm. I think there were parts of it that really worked, but a lot of it just didn't connect. And like the last, and also what's his name? Who's the main guy from Sons of Anarchy? I can't remember the guy's name, but I
Charlie
feel like
Hunnam.
he kind of, I don't buy that dude in glasses and being like, I don't know.
Oh my God, I love him in that. I like love his like quiet energy in that, and him like, oh, I just see, if we were talking about my birthday list again, that would be one that I would want to talk about. Actually, I love that movie.
Okay. All right. Well, now we know. But yeah, it's a super tightly written script. I love the bookends of how it starts with, Turkish monologuing and talking about like, what do I know about diamonds? And then you go the whole fucking movie not realizing how that's going to tie together. And then at the end, it's like they just find this random dog because they're looking for Mickey, and the dog happens to have the diamond, and we get back to the Doug the head of it all. Like, I just think it's like a perfect movie front to back, and those bookends for me kind of symbolize that.
And I like that, that feels like dumb luck too, right? Like, and it kind of is, right? The way they find the dog and they get the diamond and all that. And like, you come full circle with Cousin Avi in that moment too, all that. Like, yeah, I think they're great bookends. I agree. I think the way that kind of moves is excellent.
What do you, speaking of like the introduction, this was one of the first movies, and honestly still one of the only movies that I've seen literally have almost like a TV credits opening of, we're going to give you all the characters' names and do these little vignettes and like images. That is just so original to me. I'm sure something did it before this, but it was the first time I had seen that. But I just think Guy Ritchie just goes really fucking hard here on, I want to make a movie that's going to feel super different from anything else people have seen.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else might have done that before this. I mean, I've certainly seen it in a few, and unfortunately none come to mind off the top of my head. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it feels very different. Like, even if not just that piece, I think the energy of this movie feels very different. I think it also gives something to that Brad Pitt. It plays the role that he does, not for nothing. Like, at this moment in time, I think people kind of weren't prepared to see him in that kind of role, if that makes sense.
And gross and grimy,
right, and like a mess, and kind of like unattractive. I don't mean physically unattractive, but you know what
greasy,
I mean, like
greasy,
messy, all of that. And like, he's not doing that yet. He's not leaning into those kinds of roles. He's leaning into his hotness, generally speaking. And so I actually think that that's maybe a little bit of why it wasn't as immediately well received and loved, because they're like, this is such a weird turn for him.
Yeah, I just want Brad Pitt to be hot and like handsome.
I just want him to be a hot movie star. I don't want him to do this kind of thing, And then the vignettes, as you said, the different timelines and coming and pulling these all together. I think the combination thereof is what makes this really a unique movie at the time, but maybe also one that wasn't that well received right away. Not terribly, but not adored.
No, I think it became a cult classic. I don't remember, I didn't see this in theaters. I saw it on DVD for the first time, and I didn't know anybody who went and saw it in theaters, so I don't know if you have like box office numbers, but I imagine it didn't do great.
It did okay. So budget here was 10 million. It made 83.6 million.
Okay. That's fucking more than I would thought. Okay.
Pretty good. But I also didn't see it in theaters. I bought it. I remember buying it like when it was out on DVD, like kind of quickly, but I just didn't see it in theaters. But it was one that it was kind of word of mouth, it certainly wasn't the marketing that was getting people in to go see it, for sure.
Yeah, and like Lock, Stock, which is a good film in its own right. I think Lock, Stock is the 1.0 of Snatch. Like, I think it's Guy Ritchie trying to do a lot of these things he does here. And it's a good film, but it doesn't function as well. It's not as good front to back as Snatch is. But Lock, Stock, I feel like it was well known in the UK, but like I had never heard of it here. So it's not as though word of mouth of, oh, he made that really good movie. It's not like Tarantino when he had done Reservoir Dogs and then Pulp Fiction came out. Like everyone knew, oh, keep an eye on this guy. I don't think that was the case here. but yeah, like I remember reading that, Brad Pitt wanted to work with Guy Ritchie. And to your point, I think he was trying to break the mold of, I don't want to just be a handsome, always playing these same parts of, he's doing fucking Interview with a Vampire and he's like this very like makeup and like beautiful man. And he wanted to do something a little bit different. And
listen, he was a great Louis in Interview with the Vampire, so it was still.
Well, no, I love him in all those other. I mean, he was very, very ripped in Thelma and Louise. I thought that was a great role for him.
It looked great.
Yes, but I read something where he actually, he wanted this role. He begged Guy Ritchie to put him in. They wrote the role for him, but he was just so paranoid about his accent that he tried to quit the film. And he was like, can't you just play this part instead of me? Like he tried to quit and have Guy Ritchie play the role of Mickey. And then I forget who it was, but somebody else, like one of the, production assistants on the set was like, dude, nobody could basically, okay, I know, again, sorry if any of these words are offensive, but like basically no one can understand gypsies, dude, or pikeys. So just do whatever the fuck you want, because how bad your accent is will not matter. That's the whole point. And then he came in and just seemingly has a blast with this fucking role. So
yeah, I think he and that becomes kind of a bit, actually, I mean, culturally, that's something that they, that they say about travelers or Romani people. And I'm not trying to use the terms that they're using, but that is what the way they describe it as the Pikey accent. And it becomes a joke here in a way that I actually don't think is that offensive. Like that term is offensive and they're kind of a running joke in the film, but it's meant to be for laughs here, but not at them. Like you're not laughing at them, you're laughing with them about it. And it also, I think, helps that they end up being such empowered characters.
Yeah, because they lean into that and say, that's why they're such like masters of negotiation, because they speak fast, you don't understand everything, you're agreeing to terms and just hoping that you understood it. Like it's very much a strength.
And they are kind of being strategic masterminds in this whole scenario. Like this turns out the way, other than Mickey losing his mother, which is of course terrible and sad, but other than him losing her, he navigates all of this, like every negotiation very well, every fight very well, getting his vengeance very well. Like there is they are very empowered and seemingly strategically brilliant characters. So I think that's why the joke works. That you can't understand.
I don't think, to your point, you're not laughing at them. And I think there's parts of this where I still, without subtitles, I would have no idea what he's saying. And I love that about this movie of like, you as the viewer are meant to be the same as the characters. Turkish points out, did you understand a single word he said? Like that is,
and I love that they walk off like,
great, Mickey.
Sounds great. Oh, what the fuck did he say?
I'll get two things out of the way real quick. One is my worst fact of the movie. And that is that somebody pointed out on IMDb that it's heavily implied, to our point about Brad Pitt being filthy and grimy and dirty in this. They're like, it's heavily implied that the first time you see Mickey's character, he's like defecating on the ground.
Yeah.
I'm like,
100%.
Well, yeah, if you're watching the movie.
Right. You watched it.
That's literally what he's pulling his pants up. Like he was I don't know that we need that to be an IMDb fact.
These worst facts really are like really terrible. Like
just honestly, if you're bored, just go on IMDb and tell people what happens in the movie, and some people will find that interesting.
Wow.
But the second thing that I thought was interesting in the factoids was, do you know what the original title of this was during production? Like the original title of the script was not Snatch.
I've heard it before, but I don't remember it. No, what is it?
So oddly, it was called Taken. And as we know, there was a film in production at Sony at the time called Taken that didn't end up getting made until 8 years later, but that's why they changed this to Snatch. But what that really made me want was Mickey in the movie Taken.
In the movie Taken. Oh my God, that would be wild.
Yeah, I don't know who you are, I don't know what you want. You were a fucking ransom. Like, no, I got a fucking particular set of skills. Like, just him in the Liam Neeson role would be so incredible, I think.
It would be so different, but also kind of fascinating, I'll be honest with you. I fucking love it. Like, I know that Taken is now a running joke, but I loved that movie, to be honest, when it came out. It's now been done to death, but I thought it was funny. I like Snatch for this, though, actually. I'm glad they changed it. I think it's like, it's kind of a more fun title in general.
They thought about changing the title to like Snatched or like a modification. because I do that. Like, we know Snatch is a slang term for something else, and so it was always funny in college when you say, "Hey,
Is
have you
it?
seen Snatch?" And it's like, well, yeah, if you're lucky. But yeah, so they thought about changing the title, but I'm glad they kept it the same. And then we have the little line of dialogue where he tells the dog, "Don't snatch," and then you do the point from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But I'm trying to think of, like, I really, like, I don't think we need to go in. There's so much happening in the plot here. I don't want to delve into every single piece. I want to just focus on the things that I love about this and why I selected this for, birthday month. Was I love the creativity of some of the shots in this. Again, might not be the first time they've happened, and I've referenced a couple of them, but I think the hard cuts of, like, the spinning revolver at the beginning, like he spins the thing and then we do a whirlwind camera shot to get to the other sequence. You have the inner shots or interwoven shots of the hare coursing where the dogs are chasing the rabbit and Tyrone's being chased by the gangsters. Like, I just think there's so much creatively here on Ritchie's plate. Like, I have to give him props for just a really cool looking movie.
Yeah, I think, and the aesthetic is, this is what I mean by going back and watching this versus some of his newer stuff. You see kind of the dregs of old Guy Ritchie versus new Guy Ritchie, because it is so stylized and it has this very specific aesthetic, and he has these great, like, needle drops and looks, but it is so much grittier. I know I keep saying that, but if you look at his work now, it has this same really dark, visceral violence to it in the new stuff as well, that is absolutely present here, but the newer stuff is just more polished, more stylized, more sexy, more visually, like, clean. And so I think that's the biggest contrast for me, is going back and looking at this and going, like, this is him in his, like, gritty era.
Yeah.
And he really makes I think a concerted shift to maintain that level of violence and kind of threat and energy, but in a very different aesthetic. And it's telling to me that he can do both, because he has a foot in both camps.
Yes, you touched on, like, three things that I wanted to follow up on. One is you said needle drop, and I just think the soundtrack in this is bonkers. Like, it must be so weird to people that are under 21 to think that there was an era where you would go buy a soundtrack CD to a film and listen to that front to back, and that would be one of your favorite CDs in your collection, was a movie soundtrack. But this one just, I mean, one after the other, you have the specials, you have Oasis, you have Massive Attack, like the Stranglers. The soundtrack is brilliant here. You pointed out that there's this violence. It's a comedy movie, I think, at its heart. I think it's more of a comedy, like, caper than anything else. It's not an action movie.
But it's deeply violent. Yeah.
But it's very violent. And to that point, one thing I really like about it is it does have stakes. I think that without the really upsetting, and, like, every time I watch this, Mickey's mom's death, like, upsets me. Like, it does hurt every single time, even though it's, like, an off-screen thing. But Brad Pitt, like, his character's reaction to it and the way
he plays that very well.
Yeah. But it shows that there's stakes in this universe, because I think without that, it would be a pure comedy. It would be like, oh, this is silly, but there, people dying.
No, it needs to be rooted in, so again, like, for that violence to be passable and not become a joke, there have to be stakes. I agree, and I think they do that well. Also, everybody, did y'all see British Lemar come out for a quick second with the mum of it all? Look at you. Fun fact, if y'all didn't know, he was born in England. Okay.
This is not the original one, but this pork pie hat that I'm wearing, if you're on video, I actually used to have one that my granddad had. So I used to have an actual pork pie hat from England. I lost it at some point in, like, college, but I have a new one now. But I think the other thing that I wanted, like, we talked about, like I just mentioned, the comedy and the humor in this, to the point of it being such a tight script. I don't think you go more than 2 minutes in this film without a laugh. Like, there are just so many throwaway lines and, like, things that make you giggle and guffaw,
chuckle,
and, like,
giggle, laugh, full out. Yeah. And even the heavy moments, kind of, I don't want to say they're funny, but like there's usually one funny thing around surrounding the heavy moment that happens that kind of like almost breaks the tension of it a little bit. Even, we were talking about Bricktop and like how violent he is, and like he has that whole very intense monologue with the pigs and the pig farm, and like, and again, the delivery of that is just like down to the spittle is so chef's kiss.
As hungry as a pig.
But like, yes, there's like this tonality to it that has this levity despite the violence, and the subject matter is also inherently a little bit funny because you're like, we're gonna feed them to the pigs, like, really? Wow.
I
So
like when he at the very beginning, near the very beginning, when you get introduced to him and he has the two men like suffocated in front of, and then he looks at the boxers, he's like, what the fuck are you two looking at?
Yeah.
And it's just, this is just a day-to-day for him. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, and they're just like I love their faces. They're just looking at him in absolute and utter shock, and he's like, what the fuck? Like, look away. I love his character. He's super fascinating for sure. What are some of your other favorites? Do you have other favorite things about this movie that landed on this list?
Like I said, the humor, the whole Tyrone sequence, I know a lot of it, like it's 2026, a lot of it hinges on, like making fun of his body and his appearance. But I think it kind of works. Again, the dude was a bouncer, so he's a tough fucking guy. I think he can take it, but I like that he's willing to like poke fun. I like when he's getting out of the car and the leather is like squeaking.
Yeah.
He's referring to it
and
as
they're
his
like,
car.
He's a getaway guy.
Yeah.
I love his thing about the car. As y'all know, I'm a car girly, and I love that he's, it's not his car and he's driving this getaway car, and he's like, you can get that dog off my leather seats, and he's like, it's not even your car, and he's like, well, I'm at the wheel, it's my car. And I'm like, yes, I deeply relate to that.
What's wrong with that space over there? And he's like, it's too tight. You could park a jumbo fucking jet in there, or like, it was a funny angle. He's like, when you go in reverse, things come from behind you. Like, it's just such a really good script and just so hilarious. That's probably my favorite thing, and what makes this rewatchable is I'll never not laugh when I rewatch this film.
Yeah. And I think the way it closes out is such a, like, as we said earlier, such a great bookend and such a funny, like, Cousin Avi fucking hates England. He gets back from England and is like, you have anything to declare? Yeah, don't go to fucking England, and then he has to go back for the diamond. And I just love that he, of course, that's what he went there for in the first place. And here he goes having to go back to this place that he's now come to hate. It's just all these like subtle little just beats of humor throughout.
100%. The other thing that you sort of mentioned was the grittiness and the appearance of this. I think the fight sequences in this, considering it's the year 2000, like it's weird because the final fight, for example, like when you watch it, it looks faded, but it looks glossy. Like the guys are sweaty and there's like this contrast of like the shine off their bodies. But I love how grittily that is shot. I love the sound effects where there's like the animal noises when they're sort of like huddling together and like punching each other. The bullet noises when he like is beating the shit out of Mickey, and they have these like bullets flying sounds before like the ultimate like knockout. And that underwater scene of Mickey like falling, that is brilliant. Like that's an all-timer for me.
That's beautifully shot. Like, and that is such a interesting transition. Like, I mean, it even on rewatch, I was reminded of it. You know what I mean? Because it just feels unexpected. But I think it's great. And speaking of like really beautiful shots and stunning visuals, I think the other moment that stands out to me is the caravan, when his mom has been burned in the caravan. It's obviously a really poignant moment that's really sad, but it's shot so well, like the lighting of that and the fire and in his like that reflecting in him and his eyes and his tearing up and all of these things, but like trying to keep it together. And the back and forth of him trying to fight to get to the caravan, and also like him giving up and just staring at it, like just stunning visuals that, again, to your point of like, this is kind of a comedy caper energy that are a bit more serious and a bit more intense than I think you expect for this kind of movie. But even
in that moment, like him in like, briefs with like stripes on, like the cartoonish.
He looks ridiculous.
Like, this is what you would look like if you woke up in the middle of the night and there was a fire. Like you would just jump out of bed and you roll out in that. And it's not trying to make light of it, but it is, the ridiculousness of this film. I think that's very, very like intentional. but yeah, I think the movie doesn't work without Mickey. Like him as the fighter, the boxer here. I think there's 3 boxing matches in the film. And all 3 of them are great for their own individual reasons, like him fighting Gorgeous and just taking an ass whooping and not even like flinching really. Just it's a little cheesy. Like remember when we did the Boondock Saints, and it's like I like this movie, but I know it's fucking cheesy as hell. That scene where he's just like takes off his shirt and you see ripped Brad Pitt and he kisses his cross and just knocks the guy out in one punch. It's goofy, but it works for me still.
Here for it.
And yeah,
totally here for it.
The other 2 fights also. I love the one punch on the second fight where they're like, you go down in the 4th. He's like, yeah, sure. And he knocks the guy out and just does this little like shrug thing. Like,
I love the shrug. It's the shrug for me of like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I mean,
sorry, I didn't think
I just hit him and this is what happened. Like, no, I love it.
I mean, anything else for you? Like, I feel like I've gushed nonstop. Is there anything I'll say? Okay. I'll give not a critique, but outside of Mickey's mom, we don't really have any female characters, and I think that's a typical criticism of like these types of movies, like the Guy Ritchies and the Tarantinos. Like, is that we want to have all these cool dude characters. We don't necessarily want to lean into females. So I think that's one critique you could levy at this: is we could use another female presence. He does that in The Gentleman.
He does. I was just about to say. Yeah. There's a couple. He does it in the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare as well,
which was okay. I didn't love it, but I had a good time watching that.
And it's a good, like I said, even not his best work are fun watches. You know, I wouldn't say that they're the best, but they're still a fun watch. He does it in Sherlock Holmes, which is again source material based, but still good. He has a token woman when he has them, and I think that is a progression that we see that he doesn't do here. Again, this is some of his earlier work, and he doesn't even attempt to incorporate it other than as the maternal figure who's there very briefly. But what I will say is when he does introduce women, they're usually really badass. You know, they can like hold their own. And even I think the implication there with the mom in this one is that, right? Like she's raised these people, and she's, you know, she's smart and adaptable, and she is the matriarch of the situation and all of that. So even though we only get a little bit of her, I think that comes through at least. But yeah, I do think that's a relevant criticism for the boys club that can be this film and others of his too, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in this, it kind of works when you think of the environments that we're inhabiting in this film, that it's like,
I don't know. I don't care. Like we can have girl gangsters. Why the fuck not? I want a girl gangster.
Know. In 2000, I don't know how many, I mean, we have actually, honestly, the most badass female in this is, not to make assumptions about genders and whatnot, in the year 2000, but like the woman working at the bookies, who's just kind of a badass and is like, yeah, but there's no fucking money here. Like, and she plays that so straight.
Oh yeah. She plays it straight. She doesn't give a shit. She has no fear. I love that for her. Yeah. Listen, there have always been women in male dominated industries. Like there is a way to incorporate it. I don't see the problem. Like let's make it happen. The only other thing that I had to add that I forgot, and I don't want to keep forgetting, is I love the pubs, the pub energy and the pubs and the pub names. It's one of my favorite things about England to begin with. I have been lucky enough to travel there quite a bit, and I love a good pub name. And the one I wanted to call out here is the Drowning Trout. The Drowning Trout. Like what a name. Like who's like, I want to go into the Drowning Trout and have a pint. I would absolutely go in there, actually. It sounds great.
It's also pub energy to go in and say pint of the black stuff, and they just know what you're talking about.
Oh,
like
100%.
Dark beer. Like they probably only have 3 beers on tap. One of them is dark. That's the thing you want. It also reminds me, not to bring up Edgar Wright again, but his third big movie, World's End, where they do the pub crawl and all the different pub names in that. There's like 11 pubs, and they have some pretty clever ones in there.
I love a good pub.
But speaking of the pub sequence, right before that, I think is probably the cool, when we talked about like the use of time in this, I think that's the one sequence where things actually do happen non-chronologically, where there's the 3 different people in the cars, and you're seeing Turkish and Tommy having the conversation about Gary, and then you have like Tony and Avi with Boris in the trunk, and then you have Saul and Vinny with the dog. Like there's so much happening in that, and I just love how that is the literal like collision of all 3 of these stories.
Literal.
Yeah.
And I love that we get a milk moment payoff also, because it is, first of all, hilarious that Turkish drinks milk all the time. It's kind of silly and funny, and I love Tommy's like rant that is totally hilarious and accurate, which it feels like a very Guy Ritchie moment to me, by the way, where he goes off about how human bodies are not evolved to
it's not
ingest milk.
evolution. Yeah.
It's not evolution. And I love that it gets as much time as it does to talk about it. But also that Turkish, this, the guy who's supposed to be the rough and tumble guy is like just fucking sipping on milk half this movie. And then yes, in that collision, you get the payoff of the milk fucking spilling everywhere on the windshield. And yeah. And it also kind of like serves a function of it blocks the view a little bit from the bystanders, and so there's a lot of payoff there with the milk for me.
Yeah, it all. I love the firing of the blanks in the car and shattering the windows. I love that leads us to the scene at the pub where Bullet Tooth Tony, hate speech aside, gives a really compelling fucking speech there, and the fact that you got replica written down the side of your gun, like that's just again badass moment. That whole hallway standoff and Boris just being fucking unkillable is another great running joke in this.
I know. But I love the Desert Eagle of it all, like you said, the replica against the desert, like of all the
shot where it zooms in on the font
and
it's like just
you're like you're about to get fucked up, like.
But yeah, dude, I think that we've touched on almost everything. I love the ending when the sort of the twist is that he doesn't throw the fight. You think the whole underwater sequence, again, how beautiful that is, but it's like, oh, he's finally going to lose. And then he just turns around and knocks the guy out. And then I love Turkish's speech about, you make a stupid face when you think you're going to die, you're going to get hit by a car. And, Mickey didn't. Why? And then you get the reveal that he had this whole plan put together of getting revenge. And I love how that all plays out to close us out.
Yeah. How it all comes together, and you can, you can see them right next to each other and how different the energy is. I love it. Okay. So we did cover almost everything and you have been gushing. So what is your golden garnish? Like, you like a lot of things about this. This is a birthday pick for a reason, but you got to pick one thing.
You know what? If I'm conflicted here,
I love this moment for me because I
think if Guy Ritchie I know that he did like the Sherlock Holmes movies and he's had like a pretty successful career. I think if he had flourished a little bit more and had like some really like, this is my favorite film of his, and the fact that it's 26 years old.
Mine's The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
I would have said Guy Ritchie won it if he had done more after, in my eyes, but I understand people's opinions of, he might have done better stuff since then. So I think I'm gonna go honestly with Brad Pitt. To seek out this and say, I want to be a part of it. I want to work with this director. I want to break out of what my typical roles are and to just have a blast and do. I think Mickey is an all-time character. Just the fact that you can't understand his dialogue, and that's just part of the bit.
Yeah.
It's just, he probably had a blast playing it. And I think that it just led to him getting a lot more creative options in his career. So I think he did more with this movie than what Guy Ritchie did, even though I think this is my personal favorite Guy Ritchie film. What about you?
Yeah, I think my favorite Guy Ritchie film is The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I like I don't dislike the grit here. It's fun, but I like the polish that I see coming into, but again, like maintaining the violence and the criminality of it in his later films, but also like having this like sexy polished aesthetic to it is super fun to me. So this is very different for me in terms of Guy Ritchie films. And so it's not my favorite one, but I do really enjoy it. I think, I will probably have to go Alan Ford. I just love his character. I'm just obsessed with his delivery of every line and his just undercurrent of this like British gangster, violent British gangster who, like we said, just doesn't give a fuck, is strangling people in the gym and is, like, fuck off. It's such a vibe. I think he does such a great job.
I'm also shocked he didn't do more after this. Like, I feel like he could have. We talked about Aid being in Casino Royale. I feel like Alan Ford could have been a Bond bad guy at some point.
I don't think he's polished enough for that, actually. I think he can do this kind of bad guy.
Mackenzie, but that's like part of the gimmick, so I wouldn't criticize him.
I don't mean that. I just mean, like, I don't think he gives suave.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to give Suave for Bond a little bit,
Fair.
you know? So, but I would love to see him in more of this, you know?
Yeah.
This
Well, I'm
thing.
glad. I'm actually really glad that you picked him, because I talked earlier about just, he's such a fucking hateable villain. Even without the dog stuff, we didn't even touch on the dog stuff and how, like,
I don't
that
want
was
to
put
touch
in
on the
there
dog
for a
stuff.
reason.
Like, I don't need
Well,
to.
if it makes you feel any better, apparently Alan Ford in real life, like, donates constantly. Like, he's a big animal advocate, so, like, he's a big supporter of those nonprofits. So I'm sure these scenes were difficult for him to portray this character, but in real life, he's a good guy. So
okay, good. That does help. I didn't go deep dive into that because it was very hard to watch. I do like that the dog squeaks, though. I think that's really funny.
I like the line where Avi says, like, "What's the matter? You never heard a dog squeak before?"
I know.
He just says it like it happens.
Like, it's totally fucking normal. Like, what do you mean? Yeah. Okay, so what's your rating?
My rating, again, I think that if I'm being objective, I just think Jason Statham, talented as he is, he's a great action star. For being the protagonist, when he's not in a booth monologuing over top of the footage, when he's on camera and having to deliver lines, I think he's the sore spot of this movie and the only thing that keeps it from being a 10 out of 10. But it's one of my favorite movies still. So I'll give it like a 9.5. I think it's fucking incredible.
Wow.
Yeah. Not perfect, but really, really good.
Yeah, I think it's really good. It has grown on me, like I said, over the various watches. I think I'd probably landed at like an 8 now. Fair. I think I'm at an 8. I like I said, I think there are reasons why people aren't super drawn to it the first watch. I think it should be like kind of more watchable on the first watch, but as I have watched it more, I think it's really good. I think the performances are solid, but I hard agree about Jason Statham. Like I said, I kind of feel that way about him in most things. Like, he's an action star. I think Wrath of Man, he did well in. Like, that's the most he has carried a role, like carried a lead role in a way that I think is effective. And that's a Guy Ritchie too. But it's not the most popular Guy Ritchie either, because it's not as actiony, which is interesting. But yeah, I still think it's a good time. It's a fun watch. It's funny. I think seeing Brad Pitt as this totally, especially up to this point, very different character, is a good time.
He had never shat on screen before until this movie. I'm pretty sure this is the first time we see him poop on screen. So that's awesome. Good for him.
I don't ever need to see that again, but I commend him.
Everybody poops. There's a book about it. Even Brad Pitt.
I'm good. I don't need to read it. I'm all good. Okay, well, thank you for joining, fam. I know this was a super blast for Lemar. I also had a good time. What are you going to make us do next time? You got to tell us. Come back next week for what?
So come back next week for Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh my God.
Which we have mentioned.
I told
it's very fitting that we're doing Edgar Wright right after.
Oh my God. I told y'all, he was like, what does she not really want to watch? And that's what I'm going to pick. Yeah. Okay.
Mackenzie actually fought 7 Evil Exes to date a couple boyfriends back. So it's a soft spot for her, but I'm very excited for it.
Okay. Well, that'll be interesting. In the meantime, though.
In the meantime, follow us on socials. Mostly Instagram is where we're most active. Give us a comment or a DM and we'll mention you on the podcast. Shout out to Jessica Avery Carnes and Rosaluna, who both were really big fans of your Obsession drink creation. We called that the One Wish Willow, mezcal, strawberry puree, palm juice, palm liqueur, and lime. And they both were pretty big fans. So I hope that some of y'all are enjoying the cocktails.
Fun fact, Rosaluna is the mezcal that we used, and I was super excited that they
saw it. I didn't even realize that when I read the comments. So we actually used their mezcal. So
we used their mezcal. We tagged them in it. They said they like it. I was flattered.
Wow.
I feel like it's been approved by the mezcal guys.
Yeah, let's not forget that this is not just a movie review podcast. Like, the cocktail plays a pivotal part. I would not be.
We put work into the cocktail. Like, we really want them to be good. We're disappointed in ourselves when they're not. So I'm glad that I think we've had a pretty solid run lately. Actually, I don't think we've had a bad one in a while. So
no, it's been a minute since we've had one where I'm like, I don't want to drink this. But
yeah, so we're doing great. All right, kids. Speaking of, for now, go have a drink and watch a thing. Cheers.
Cheers. Why the fuck I want a caravan? It's got no fucking wheels. Okay.
Glad we could close this out on that for sure.